Chris Nixon, a member of the school committee, will update us on the school master plan. Mr. Nixon.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Everybody hear me okay? It's a real pleasure to be with you all tonight to share with you our progress on updating the Winchester Public Schools Facilities Master Plan. Quick comment in the interest of self-preservation. If there are any Lincoln School parents in the front row, I'm going to ask that you resist the urge to throw anything at me tonight until I complete the presentation. I can assure you if your blood pressure rises in a few minutes, it will fall by the time I'm done tonight. And with that curious teaser, let me just acknowledge a couple of things. Town meeting membership has changed in the past year, and not all of us were present for our appropriations discussion that kicked this off. So let me just first take a moment to review. What is a master plan? It's a vision for the support, expansion, consolidation, or transformation of district facilities that provides flexibility to accommodate changes in enrollment, educational goals, and programming. A master plan does align with the district's educational programming and planning and our plans for growth, and the best use of our facilities and properties with preliminary cost, phasing, and schedule options. The document can assist in the procurement of funds, whether as a reference point for the Capital Planning Committee, vetting small to medium scale projects in town, or at a larger level with the Massachusetts School Building Authority in consideration of the district's statements of interest and potential state reimbursement for larger projects such as the Vincent Owens School and right here at the Winchester High School. A master plan does not include the detailed design of new buildings or additions, nor does it include the specific financial plan for implementation. So why are we doing this now, other than you gave us the money at last town meeting? It's good practice for institutions to update their master plans every decade, and ours is out of date. A plan more than 10 years old loses its relevance to today's institutional needs and program. Development of the current master plan began a decade ago, during the 2006-2007 school year, and since its approval, many of the recommendations have either been completed or are underway, including the modular classroom project at Ambrose and Morocco in the fall of 2008, the subsequent E-Wing addition at the McCall Middle School, the reconstruction of Vincent Owen, and our new high school. While smaller scale projects at Morocco and Lynch have addressed some of those most pressing needs, such as the modular gas-fired boilers and heating system at Morocco, or our comprehensive bathroom renovation project at Lynch, the 2007 master plan recommendations for wholesale renovation and addition at these two schools remains unfulfilled, and continued enrollment growth has once again put great pressure on institutional and instructional spaces here. So, last year, you gave us the money, and we got going with an RFP issued in January. And I'm pleased to say that by March, we got the band back together, hiring Flansburgh Architects out of Boston as our master planner. Flansburgh, in fact, is the author of the current 2007 master plan. And I know many members of the Finance Committee, Capital Planning, Board of Selectmen, and others are familiar with this document. And I personally have to tell you, I think it's been exceptional and very helpful for us as we've moved through our many capital projects in this town. It's a very clear and accessible document, stands on its own 2 feet, and truly was an essential part in our advocacy for state funds on large projects such as VO and the high school. In June, the project kicked off in earnest with strategic visioning sessions with the school committee and leadership over at the Parkhurst School. We talked about educational mission, vision, programming for the future, not just at a high altitude that would impact master planning, but even on a more granular level, building spaces, educational spaces. These are really meaningful sessions. It was a very sleepy summer in Winchester, this summer in particular, but while many of you may have been away, our master planning team was busy, looking carefully with architects, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection engineers at all of our existing facilities, producing a facilities assessment, working with our director of finance on enrollment projections, demographic reviews. What do you think we learned when we looked at enrollment? We're out of space. I like to tease you all with these three numbers. What might they represent? 3.5, 74, and 197. Well, believe it or not, it was 4 years ago this week in this very room when the Winchester School Committee voted a redistricting map. For some of us, that meeting seems like it was yesterday. But in that time, our K-5 enrollment has grown by 3.5%. We've added 74 K-5 students, and overall, K-12, 197. Now, I like to think of myself as a half-full guy, not half-empty. So here's the good news. Some of you have heard me say before that in the decade from 2003 to 2012, when statewide enrollment fell by 3.5%, Winchester's enrollment soared by nearly 30. So the enrollment growth is still here, but not at such an alarming rate. 74 elementary students may not sound like much in a district of 4,500 students, but I will remind you that's 3.5 classrooms. And again, to compare us to the state, Commonwealth of Massachusetts has actually lost K-5 students in the amount of 4 figures. So once again, enrollment statewide is going down, and we're adding them in Winchester. But enrollment growth is actually only one of the 2 components. Something else contributes to our space crunch. And that's actually the very way we sort of talk about instructional space, how we identify and inventory instructional space. During that redistricting discussion 4 years ago, some of you may recall that the school committee found it necessary to recognize that so many years of sharp enrollment growth had been satisfied, if you will, I put that in air quotes, with the taking of specialty spaces and other secondary spaces, such as reading rooms, computer labs, music rooms. We divided some libraries and other specialty spaces. We did this because we simply had no other option. So the school committee saw fit to establish this concept of classroom target. And that simply is to look at each of our elementary buildings and say, if we set aside spaces that we believe our kids really need, that are essential for the instructional day, rooms like the reading room, computer lab, or makerspace, and so on, what are we left with? Well, 4 years ago, having done that inventory, the school committee stated that we had 108 classrooms available for instruction. That counted, by the way, the repurposed space at Lynch with the central office moved to Parkhurst. It also included the expanded Vincent Owen. This month, the school committee revised that number. Thanks in part to the real success of our specialized learning centers at all of our elementary schools, with the exception of Lincoln, where we simply don't have space for one. We're even shorter on space than we were 4 years ago. Having gone through this exercise with the school committee, we voted just last month, 106 is the number of classrooms we feel we can accommodate today. But you'll see at the bottom of the slide, we have 110 sections. This means right now, we're short 4 classrooms today. At the McCall Middle School, we are similarly exhausted of space. Some of you who are familiar with the building may know it was partitioned into a classroom last year, and this school year, we actually have 2 instructional spaces. Now, one exercise I'm very interested in seeing the outcome from is a space committee that's been established at each building. This came out of our collective bargaining agreement with the teachers union. But this is going to look at how teachers spend their time, how we use the time, how we use our space, how our students are being instructed. And there may be, from that exercise, some opportunities to use some space more efficiently. I hope there might be, but we're squeezing the turnip. We're not going to find the kind of space we need at McCall. Therefore, at the end of the summer, the master planning team developed some early options. One was to repurpose the Winchester Youth Center space, which you may be familiar with, at the lower level of the back of the school below the gymnasium, yielding 3 to 4 classrooms net. It was also suggested a 2-story addition behind the library wing for 4 classrooms. And another, and don't throw anything at me, Lincoln parents, is to consider the establishment of a 6th grade academy, similar to what's happening in neighboring Arlington. Relocate the 6th grade academy to the Lincoln Elementary School. We would have a campus, if you will, of secondary education in downtown Winchester. Another option is to establish this academy and relocate it to a renovated and expanded or newly built Parkhurst. On the elementary side, Early options include the cheap Band-Aid approach, modular classrooms. They cost nearly $1 million each these days, if you can find space to install them. An early childhood education center, pre-K and kindergarten center at a renovated or new Parkhurst. And why might that be an option? Well, simply because if we take our kindergarten students out of our 5 elementary schools, we've now made space available throughout the district, although this doesn't do anything for our outdated physical plants at Morocco and Lynch. We've also looked at new or renovated Morocco's and Lynch, separate schools, built one after the other, order to be determined. A combination school has been proposed of 1,000 students on the site of the current Morocco school. And lastly, a combination school that would support the 6th grade academy model I just described for Lynch, Morocco, and Lincoln of nearly 1,500 students.
Mr. Nixon, your time has expired. Would you like more time?
May I have 4 more minutes?
Moved and seconded. The speaker's time be extended for 4 minutes. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. These seem like some big ideas, and they're scary ideas, but I quickly make an analogy to the high school feasibility study. Although we ultimately came forward with what we might call a pretty conventional recommendation to renovate this existing building and add on where it stands today, we first had to consider many options. Can we build a high school on Skilling's Field? No, because of the water table or floodplain. Could we build on the Lynch Field? No, for the same reason. Could we build a high school on Wrightlock Farm or in the town forest? Politically difficult questions, but questions we knew we had to ask because we knew the state school building authority would ask us as well. So the working group got started in September. This has been a very big help to our process with representation from the school committee, administration, our EFPBC, finance committee, and others. They scrubbed these early options and very quickly made some key recommendations. First of all, let's not pursue a combination school for 3 school communities. And at the McCall Middle School, rather than pursue an option of a 2-story addition behind the library or refitting space of the youth center, we should really consider both, because each option really only solves our space constraint today and doesn't really adequately solve it long term. We met with members of the Planning Board, Board of Selectmen, Capital Planning. The school committee was there, representation from Energy Management, Finance, and others in October, where all these presentations were made. And the school committee really appreciated the feedback and constructive criticism. I can share with you that the school committee has voted that at the McCall Middle School, we wish to pursue development of a 2-phase project. Phase 1 is reconfigured youth center space at the lower level. This will come up later this town meeting, Mr. Moderator, under Article 10, Motion 3. And separately, Phase 2, a 2-story library wing addition. I'll tease you with the floor plans only for a moment, but I'm happy to make that presentation under Article 10. With respect to elementary, the school committee voted not to consider a combination school of any sort, as well as not to consider a modular classroom project. Instead, we wish to pursue development of separate Morocco and Lynch elementary schools, as well as the potential for a grade shift option at Parkhurst. What that simply means is recognizing that building as an asset. Could a renovated Parkhurst potentially serve as a pre-K academy? Perhaps. Maybe it could serve as a 5th grade academy. We're going to continue to explore these options. So where do we go from here? What are the next steps, and how can you participate? Later this month, we'll be hosting a community informational meeting here in the auditorium. I invite you all to attend, participate, give us your feedback. In January, we will re-engage the working group, refine the details and costs of these options. And I expect in early spring, the school committee, in fact, will vote a new master plan with the preferred options identified. In closing, I want to personally thank you for your support of the facilities master plan update. Our schools are a meaningful part of our architectural and cultural fabric. They are a significant multi-generational investment where great work happens every day. A current, clear, and effective master plan helps us to be good stewards of facilities, whether they're handed down to us or the ones we build ourselves. And it helps us continue to make smart, capital project decisions in the years to come, whether new construction or renovation. I hope you all can join us on Monday, November 28th, right here in the Winchester High School auditorium at 7 o'clock to learn more about the options that remain on the table. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nixon.